Today we have Mabel and Kathy joining us. They climbed the Lemosho 10-day route with us back in January of 2014, and they were gracious enough to come on the call with me and tell us about their Kilimanjaro experience. So welcome, Mabel and Kathy, and thanks for doing this. So I guess the first question I have is, what made you guys decide to climb Kilimanjaro?
Well, it was my idea, my bright idea. It was part of my bucket list, and so I asked Mabel to do it with me. I'm a pretty avid hiker, and yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to climb the highest mountain in the continent? So yeah, so I found a person that would want to do it with me. So we did it. Yeah.
That's great. Mabel, did you think she was crazy when she first mentioned it?
Well, Kathy had climbed base camp at Mount Everest, and she had gone to Africa for her honeymoon. And based upon all of her stories of her hiking in Africa, and when she approached me and asked me, I thought I really wanted to go to Africa now. So I had no experience hiking before other than hiking Mount Baldy and another small hike, local hike. So this was my first camping trip.
Wow, your first camping trip, and you do it on Kilimanjaro. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Well, Kathy, I have a quick side question. Since you've done Everest Base Camp and now you've done Kilimanjaro, which one did you think was tougher?
I thought Kilimanjaro was a lot tougher, mentally and physically.
Really? Okay. Because I've actually heard the opposite from a couple of our clients. They told me that the Everest Base Camp hikes were very long days and colder.
For the on Everest Base Camp, I think I acclimated better. We slowly ascended. The whole trip was it was a 13-day ascent and 7-day descent. Or actually like 4 days descent, and I just felt Kilimanjaro was steeper, tougher on my body to adjust as far as the altitude. When I went to Mount Everest Base Camp, I did not take Diamox at all, but on the 4th day of the Mount Kilimanjaro hike, I had to take Diamox because I started feeling the altitude sickness. I started getting all the symptoms.
Oh, okay.
So mentally and physically, I think the Kilimanjaro was a lot, to me, was tougher.
Okay, well, that's definitely great to know, because a lot of people climb Kilimanjaro and then they want to do Everest Base Camp as their next hike. So if you're listening, you'll know that Kilimanjaro was tougher. So Base Camp may be easier if you've done it. So, all right, so let's get into your climb a little bit. Just wanted to start off with just some general stuff that a lot of people wonder about. Do you remember which airline you took to fly in?
I think we took Delta. We took Delta.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you took the Delta flight that went to Amsterdam. It arrived at like 8 o'clock at night.
Correct.
And did you get your visa when you arrived at the airport?
What we did was we had our application on hand. You can fill it out and print it out from home, and they just tell you to keep cash, have American dollars on you. Once you exited the plane, you go right into the visa line, and right after that, you give them the form. They take your picture, stamp your passport. You pay them, and then you go right through.
Yeah, so
it's a very smooth process.
Yes, yeah, that's my experience with it too, and that's why we recommend everybody get their visa upon arrival instead of sending your passport out, a month ahead of time.
Yeah. The first person off the plane is the first person in line for the visa, and then the sooner you'll get to your ride to go back to your lodge, or else there's going to be a long line for the visa. The lines are pretty long.
Yeah, so what you don't want to do when you get off the plane, you don't want to go to the bathroom. You want to get in line for the visa first, get that.
Exactly.
And then go to the bathroom after.
Right.
After you got your luggage, did you find our Peak Planet pickup person okay? I assume that all your luggage arrived on time?
all of our luggage arrived, and what we did was we looked for our driver with a Peak Planet sign, and he had our names, and yeah, he was pretty easy to identify. And then we met a couple of the people in our group there too.
Okay, and then you guys stayed at Mavaro Lodge before and after your climb, and I was just wondering what you thought of the lodge.
Oh, the lodge was very nice. Accommodations. The hotel staff was very friendly. Once we got to the hotel, they greeted us and showed us around, and they carried our luggage to our hotel room and helped us bring it into the room. There was a continental breakfast in the morning, and then we also met our tour guide that explained all the initial trip itinerary and collected information and so forth, and answered all of our questions before we actually left to go to our first destination point.
And you guys got there a day early, right?
Yes.
So did you do anything special on the leisure day, or did you just hang around at the lodge?
We hung around at the lodge initially to have breakfast, and then we got a private driver that took us into the city to go to the grocery store and buy coffee and mail postcards.
Go to the post office. Took us to the jewelry market.
Yeah, took us to the Tanzanite jewelry store.
So he kind of took care of us. He carried our groceries, and we felt very safe with him.
Yeah,
it was kind of nice. And the hotel set that all up.
Yeah.
How much did that cost for the private driver for the day?
Expensive at all.
Under $20, I believe, was not that much.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he even had lunch with us and everything.
At the Blue Heron.
I think that's a very good price, actually,
yeah,
compared to the days I've stayed there. So that was good. And then I guess you started your climb the next day. They drove you to the Lemosho trailhead, and you started your hike. What did you think of it the first 1 or 2 days?
The first couple of days was pretty humid, I remember. It was pretty flat. We hiked for about a couple hours, I think.
Mm-hmm. About 3 to 5 hours.
Yeah. And then once we got to our destination, they set up the camp, and we
settled in.
Got to settle in with our tents and everything, and
it probably wasn't cold your first couple nights on the Lemosho route.
No, it wasn't cold. No, I was still wearing short sleeve and not needing to wear much layers. It was pretty warm.
Yeah, the first few days on the Lemosho route is at a pretty low altitude. I guess under 10,000 feet is considered low over there, and then I guess it probably got colder as the days went by.
Yeah, as you see less greenery, it gets colder.
Were there? When did the altitude? I know you mentioned that the altitude started to affect you, Kathy, on day 4, but how about you, Mabel?
It affected me about 12,000 feet, so somewhere near like Shira Point. I remember getting altitude sickness, just breathing very heavily, and I could hear my heart beating out of my neck, feeling kind of nauseous. So at that point, I started to take the Diamox, and I felt a good relief by the end of that day.
It was almost like day and night. Yeah, taking Diamox.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Next day was so much better.
Diamox does kick in very fast. Did you feel your hands getting tingly when you took it?
I didn't get any symptoms of my hands getting tingly.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Probably just increased urination that night.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think for me, when I take the Diamox, my hands get tingly, and it probably goes into effect like in an hour or two. It's like instant all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was instant. So towards the end of the hike, that initial 12,000 elevation, I felt fine. I didn't have any illness.
The only thing with Diamox is that we just had to hydrate a lot more because we were having to use the bathroom a lot.
How many times did you wake up at night to go use the bathroom?
It's about 2 times.
At least 2. At least two.
Inconveniently, at least two.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not fun on the cold nights. Did you guys do any training before you got to the mountain?
Yeah, we did a couple big hikes before here in California. Mount Baldy, we did a couple times, and we did regular hikes, maybe 2 or 3 mile hikes that were with an elevation of maybe 1,000. So it was a very steep hike. So that's how we were training, was just doing a lot of stairs and a lot of steep hikes.
Did you ever feel like your muscles were getting tired, or you were getting tired cardio-wise, or was it just basically the altitude that was affecting you?
I think it was more the altitude.
More the altitude, the temperature, and having to carry your gear on you.
Were there any days that you thought were really tough, besides the summit night? We know that one's tough.
I would say the nights were kind of tough when you're settling in after a long day of hike. Sometimes your feet, were really sore from walking.
Yeah, we did our best to try to prevent blisters from developing. Probably one part of the hike that I remember was the wall part of the hike, where you would have to kind of climb up. And I think a few people in our group were a little afraid to climb that part of the wall. Yeah. But our tour guides were there. They were, they made us feel safe. They told us where to step, and they helped us up if you needed help.
A lot of scrambling.
Yeah.
Yes. And for our listeners, you are talking about the Bronco wall.
Correct.
It's intimidating when you're looking at the pictures if you haven't been there.
Yeah, especially since we've never climbed a mountain or used a harness or
other than rock climbing.
Yeah, it's pretty much maybe a couple steps of rock climbing, pretty much, with your backpack on.
And that day is pretty long. I think you stay at camp and you have to climb up the wall and then go down a valley and come up another valley. So it's a pretty long day.
Yeah.
So how cold were the nights? Did you rent our sleeping bags, or did you bring your own gear?
I rented the sleeping bag and the sleeping mattress pad. And I remember for me, since I had the rentals, I was extremely cold every night. I wore like a base layer, I wore a fleece jacket, and I had a goose down jacket, and even a snowball ski jacket, and I was still very cold.
Yeah. So I on the other hand had a really good sleeping bag. It was a Marmot sleeping bag, rated for -17 degrees, and I was really warm in that. So, but I also think that having a tent mate is actually nice because the body warmth kind of helps out with the warmth. And I know that some people who stayed in the tent by themselves, they said it was pretty cold.
I actually brought a thermometer with me the last time I climbed the mountain, and in the middle of the night, I just took a glance at it when I woke up, and it was 38 degrees inside my tent. I could say it wasn't as bad as the first time I climbed the mountain, because at 38 degrees, my water didn't freeze. I remember the first time I climbed Kilimanjaro, my water bottle was frozen pretty much halfway when I woke up.
Yeah. Yeah, we the thing that we remembered to bring was heat packs. That helped out a lot, and the preferably 12-hour ones.
Yeah,
and I would sleep with those. And if you have battery packs or your phone, you just sleep with it in your sleeping bag to make sure you preserve the power.
Yeah.
So let's get to the big night, the summit night. What did you think of it?
That night, it was extremely cold, and I remember my camel pack froze. They kept telling us to blow into the straw so that it wouldn't freeze, and it obviously froze. It was so cold. It was a long hike.
It was a long night and day because We woke up maybe at 11 o'clock for summit night, and I think we summited around 6 or 7 a.m. And after that, we had to work our way down the mountain, and I think that was the toughest part because you were scrambling to descend. Yeah. And then after you descend, you go to your camp, you pack up, and then you go down to the next camp. So I thought that was the most difficult part.
There wasn't much rest after that. We had a little lunch, and then they had us continue to walk down to the exit of the whole camp experience.
But as far as the summit, I mean, it was exhilarating. I think everyone had a lot of adrenaline on them. And, just getting up there and taking that one picture was worth it all.
Yes, is that all you got, one picture? Because some people forget.
Well, we were very cold once we got to the top, and a lot of people were waiting to take pictures. So we did take a group picture, and we then took individual pictures.
I think some people were getting sick, so so the tour guides, they were looking out for all of our safety, and they wanted all of us to be together. Mm-hmm. And then so they just, had us descend down. But everything was smooth. The group stayed together, and it was very nice.
We all summited.
Everybody summited. Yeah. And the oldest person in our group was
about 65
years old, and I mean, he got sick early on the trip, and the tour guides took care of him and made sure that he was going to summit. They just kept telling him to eat, kept telling him, to drink water, and would check up on him in the middle of the night, and he summited, and it was great. We were all so proud of him.
Yeah, that's great. You guys had a 100% success rate.
Yes, we did. But on summit day, our guides were very helpful, and they stayed along to make sure that some of us that were a little bit slower, more tired, like myself, that, we pulled through. It was very mental, and I remember my guide talking me through it. I felt very fatigued and cold and sleepy. At some points, I felt like I was sleepwalking, and my guide walked me through it. I remember he would sing songs, and we just pulled through, and before you knew it, we got to Stella Point, and then we got to Uruhu Peak. So it was amazing. And I remember at the top of the summit, Kathy and I told ourselves when we summit, we're going to eat the Snickers bar that we had packed with us, and we saved it for the whole trip to eat it that day. So that was the highlight of summit for us.
It was well worth it.
Yes, and we split that among ourselves and 2 other guides. So we had to split a Snickers 4 ways.
I bet it tasted very good up there.
Yes, it did.
It was the little things up there.
Simple pleasures.
It is a very mental climb, because you're just trudging along for so long.
Exactly.
And
And you don't have any internet or social media with you. It's just you and nature and books and card games and conversation. So we did have a lot of camaraderie. Yeah, it's different. Very different for us.
Yeah, you get to unplug for a little while. But I know that some people are taking selfies out at the top and actually trying to send them out when they're there. So I don't know how successful they are, but some people have tried to do that. So what would you say to people who are thinking of climbing Kilimanjaro?
I think that it would be a very rewarding and physically intense experience. I highly recommend it. I do recommend that you do research to make sure you have the right gear and physical training, read the right books, and just be prepared because it is very physically intense, and there's a lot of,
I think if you're well prepared, then, it'll be a good experience, and you won't regret it, no matter how hard it is. I mean, I told Mabel she has bragging rights for the rest of her life.
Very true.
Yes, you definitely do. Not that many people get to the top of Kilimanjaro. Is there anything that you would wish that you would have brought on the climb that wasn't on our gear list? Or
I would probably have I would recommend for people to bring extra toilet paper and just buy toiletries because sometimes it does between sharing amongst other tent mates, that you do kind of get scarce. And then I remember having to borrow toilet paper from other individuals that were on our group. So that's something you run out of, I guess.
I think heat packs really helps me out a lot for the cold nights, and Jolly Ranchers. Jolly Ranchers, and tour guides love it, and everybody else loves it. So yeah, it kind of helps when you need a little bit of energy. Yeah.
I remember we brought honey stingers and power bars, granola bars, and that helped a lot. The guides would eat them.
Yeah. But they do feed you plenty. There's plenty of food that the company provides.
And that was a highlight every morning, waking up and opening your tent to see the lovely horizon. And they bring you a little basin for you to wash your hands, and there's an immaculate breakfast every morning, well-prepared, heavy-duty breakfast with oatmeal and, toast and some protein. So you were well-nourished throughout the whole trip, and that was something that I thoroughly enjoyed.
I could definitely get used to, somebody asking you if you want coffee, tea, or hot chocolate every morning, and then just making it and bringing it to you.
Exactly. And there was peanut butter and honey, and those are like my two favorite condiments. So it was just like those little simple pleasures that you didn't think you would find so amusing while you were up on the mountain camping without running water for 7 days. So that was something that I was not acclimated to.
Did you feel funny not showering for a whole week?
I did initially, but after the hikes every day and coming back to the camp to rest, you just got used to it and it didn't bother you. We had hand sanitizers, and we had basins that they gave us to wash our hands and wash our face.
I think when you every couple of days or every few days or so, when you put on a new shirt,
you felt refreshed.
Yeah, you felt refreshed, and you wouldn't feel the difference. And it's so cold up there. I don't think I want to. I don't think I would be able to take a shower because it's so cold up there already.
Yeah.
So.
Sometimes I just didn't want to take off my jacket, and I just slept in what I hiked in.
It was fine.
You're just
got used to it.
One with nature.
Yeah. Well, you must have loved the shower that night that you got back to Mavaro Lodge.
Precisely. I remember kind of bartering with Kathy that I got first dibs on the shower, and I think that shower probably used up all of the hot water, and it was the best experience. I remember coming back to the camp and wanting to eat, a regular meal, so we went back to the Blue Heron to eat, and we probably ate a whole pizza between the both of us.
Yeah, pizza always sounds good on that climb for some reason.
Exactly.
Everybody always craves either a hamburger or a pizza.
I think we had both.
Well, and after the climb, you guys went on a safari, right? Did you do a one-day?
Yes, we did.
And you went to Arusha?
We did a one-day safari. Yes, Arusha National Park.
And how was that?
That was nice. We had a guide with us, and there was just us two in the Jeep, and we got to take a lot of pictures and see animals. We saw giraffes and flamingos, monkeys. Yeah, monkeys, and then we had a lunch at the top of the park, and
if you have extra time, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and you guys didn't stay an extra day. You just did the safari during the morning and afternoon, and then you flew out the night of the safari, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's something that...
Yeah, it was a nice way to end the trip. Because at that high elevation, you hardly see any animals while we're on the hike. So